something bad to us, we are going to do things to you that have never been done before.
Well, g'day, folks. How are you this very fine Friday? You know, when I did the show this morning, it didn't dawn on me that it was an actual Friday. I don't know what it is with days of the week around here. Saws just tend to blend into trees. Days just tend to blend into nights, and that's, you don't take much account of what day it happens to be. Yeah, Friday it is. So a free-for-all, and I'm looking forward to tonight. Darren Bergwerf will be joining shortly, and of course there will be a fella. In fact, I'll let him get his wave out of the way now. This bloke will be joining us later. So that's how that's working right now. There are a couple of things I want to get out of the way first up, and that's the greeting, of course, to everybody who was in the room. How are you guys? I hope you're enjoying the chat. There was somebody saved me. I think it was Stu, was it? SW. I saw that pop up in the chat. Hello, what happened to Nun 2K? And I thought, yeah, well, okay, what's happened to Nun 2K? Went and had a look, and somehow or other it had dropped out of the stream sequence. I'm streaming to 7 different places tonight, and it was somehow dropped out. It's the first one to go on, but for some reason got dropped out. So thank you, mate, for pointing that out, and glad I saw it, because otherwise we wouldn't be going out on Nun 2K. Sunflower, God love you, woman. First in the room tonight. By gee, you must have been out of bed early, I think. Oh, were you first in the room this morning? No, I don't think you were. Rick is well, I trust, and everybody else in the family doing well. So God love you. Hope things are going well. Angelina got in just about the same time. Macca was close in behind her, and then another one of our fabulous mods, Aussie Sue. Stu started giving me a bit of good advice, and then the rest of you started to pile in once I'd managed to alert you to the fact that there was going to be a show on Nun 2K. So g'day all. Hope you're having a good one. I did post up in the top of the chat earlier, and I will re-paste it now, a link that you might like to go and have a look at, because our friends at Cairns News, God love them too, are putting together a pardon campaign for Julian Assange. Now, I know I said this morning, I'm not sure whether or not this is really him or not. Could be a good mask, who knows? But at the end of the day, Cairns News, wonderful supporters of the Voice of Freedom, and we'll help them with anything they are doing, of course. And this pardon campaign, I think, is well worth your inspection. If you click on the link that I will put up, it will take you to this page. Now, I don't know whether or not these sorts of things are something you want to sign and put your name on. There is a school of thought that says you're just putting your name on a list that the government can later track down. And, you know, I understand that can happen. But at the moment, in the current system, lists and these sorts of things are the only way to get through. So choice is yours. And if you choose to support a pardon for Julian Assange, which I think is pretty much obligatory, I can't see how a journalist can't be pardoned. However, it may come down to a significant issue with liability, because somebody's going to be made pay for the years and years and years of extreme treatment that he's endured, or at least we're led to believe he's endured. There is another story about that. So we'll wait and see what happens. But thank you to Cairns News for putting that together. And once again, the link is in the chat there. So if you are of a mind to go and support that, then please pop along and do so. What else did I have to share with you tonight? I did want to, people were asking about Bruce Sees All. So this is the Bruce Sees All YouTube channel. I've been to his Patreon and to his Rumble channel as well. And right now, the last videos in his channels are coming up on 3 weeks old. So if we have lost Bruce Sees All, and there's been nothing new that I can see in his Patreon, although I'm not a member, but everything indicates it all sort of stopped a couple of weeks ago, 2 to 3 weeks ago. So the news that he may have passed away might in fact be true. It's made me reevaluate how close I want to take photos of the moon for a little while, just between you, me, and the gatepost. But I'm reaching out in every way I know how, including his social media and all that sort of stuff. And I don't know, we'll just see. Hopefully somebody will eventually get back if they are cleaning up the accounts or whatever. But that's the latest news I have on that part of the world. Let me just go back here for a moment. There were a number of things that I wanted to bring up before we got into the show tonight. This is what I think to be one of the best ideas so far regarding how we can get across the idea of clouds in the sky that aren't really clouds in the sky. Each year, the Bureau of Meteorology have a photo competition for their annual weather calendar. Entries close on the 31st of March every year. How about we bombard them with photo submissions of all the wonderful clouds and cloud formations that we're seeing now on a very regular basis? Maybe they'll get the picture, pun intended. Kimberly Coop, I think that is a magnificent idea. So, folks, all those photos that you send saying, my God, look at that, and get angry about it. Well, here's the place to send, but don't send the anger, all right? Don't send the anger. Just submit them as photos in the sky, and they will get tens of thousands of these things. It will be very hard to ignore. So congratulations. If, Kimberly, that is indeed your original idea, I commend that, and we should be getting onto it. You remember how I told you last night that Adelaide isn't safe to wander the streets, particularly Hindley Street, late at night? Well, why? Because they have got a police problem. They don't have enough police. Well, their ranks are thinned by one. This bloke obviously wasn't out protecting the people on the streets of Hindley Street at 3 o'clock in the morning. He was back home abusing his 15-year-old stepdaughter. Now, I don't know to what level of abuse that extended, but there may be some potential that the New South Wales police officer charged with possessing child abuse material and in the force might actually be part of all of that. Not terribly flash. Here's a frightening statistic for you. Australian over 65. In 2020, we had 4.2 million Australians over 65. In 2024, we have 2.64 million. We've lost over 500,000 people in 4 years. I'm just letting that sink in. Statistics don't lie. Now what we do is we look to those we've elected to government to represent us in that place, to do something about that, to ask questions of those appropriate. And I'll be honest, there aren't too many doing it. But I do believe Malcolm Roberts, I do believe Gerard Rennick, I do believe Antic and Babbitt, or Babet, I don't know how that's meant to be said, are doing a job. I think Roberts and Rennick lead the pack. I enjoy watching them duel, if you like, with these public servants. And it is a duel. And we discussed during the interview that I had with the senator a couple of weeks ago about the lack of respect paid by the bureaucrats to our representatives, those elected to represent our feelings, our position, our thoughts in that place. And what could be done about that sort of disrespect? The answer is not much. I don't know how that can be the case. I really don't. But we've also seen, it's not unique to Australia, the US Congress does seem to be rather ineffectual in that sort of regard as well, although at least they have the time or the ability in their sessions to claim back their time. When Senator Roberts and others ask questions deep questions designed to elicit, clear answers. And the bureaucrat doesn't want to answer them that way. That doesn't stop them talking and trying to fill up the allotted 10 minutes, 15 minutes, whatever it is, the chair ordains to give everybody to speak, all the senators at the estimates to speak on at the day. And I understand there has to be a time limit. But when, under our system, the senator isn't allowed to interrupt the public servant who is speaking bullshit every time they open their mouth for 3 or 4 minutes, a long-winded, that is a word salad of shit, the senators are not allowed to interrupt. In fact, the chair dresses them down for interrupting. I think use the American system, where their senators and congressmen put their hand down and say, I'm reclaiming my time. Shut up. You're filibustering. We need to have something like that, because these public servants, and we really can't use that term for them anymore, because they're not serving the public. They are serving a far different master. And it is being exposed in estimates on a daily basis in those hearings. Now, because I've brought up Senator Roberts, I'm going to touch on something that I mentioned this morning in my little rant about Bob and John Wilson and some Twitter chat somewhere. The Bob concerned is not our Bob, all right? Like our Bob, not our Bob. He's getting confronted by some people who know that Bob is not his real name, but they know that he is Bob, so to speak. And he's been getting phone calls and text messages. Hey, what are you doing? What are you saying? Got nothing to do with that, Bob. So please put your minds at rest there. I did say in this morning's show that I could cut up every word in that interview, or that little thing that I don't know, Twitter room, whatever the hell it is. We could go through every accusation. We could go through every fake, false narrative, half-truth, lie. I could break it down for you. I could describe the inaccuracies, particularly in Bob's narrative, and John's for that matter too, although John's narrative is very well-rounded. He works well. Union tactics, as you would expect. I was a little surprised to see this pop up today. But if you were ever in any doubt that the Freedom Union is raising money for a union rather than for a party that doesn't seem to be able to have too many people supporting it at the moment, but there is absolutely no doubt what that union is about supporting and whom. So $200 membership for that. It also seems to be something that they're doing for the other mob as well. Look, at the end of the day, while I could start a battle about this, why? I don't believe there is any point to it. There's certainly no advantage to you. There's no advantage, as far as I can see, to me, other than trying to educate two old men about how media actually works. But I get the feeling it's going to fall on deaf ears. To the Laura lady, whoever she is, the American-Australian, I've since found out. Congratulations. I have nothing to say to you. I don't know who the hell you are, and I have no real interest. I think you're the same. You don't really follow me. So all I can see is blind support from you for somebody that I've done nothing but want to support and have invested heavily in the early days. And was treated pretty poorly. I've never gone into any of that terribly deeply. nor have I ever really gone into, well, I have no idea what happened with Como John. And this is the way they play the narrative. I had a falling out. Well, I didn't have a falling out with anybody. What happened is neither of them had the honour to pick up the phone or send an email to say they had an issue with me. They just pulled the plug. Now that's, in my view, not acting in honour. I have no problems if you have a problem with me and you want to pull the plug, but at least have the honour to do it face to face, to do it over the phone in a conversation, or if you're really, really that weak, in an email or something like that. But something direct. Now, neither of these two blokes had that honour, and that's, if anything, has stuck in my craw. That's what's piqued my interest. They rave about honour, they rave about God, they rave about this, they rave about that. But actions speak louder than words, in my opinion, and honour is one of the high ones that I look for. Now, I'm lucky that I have at least two people in my life that I consider honourable people. One of them waves a lot. The other one builds things with his hands and with his brain. Will you please welcome Darren Bergwerf and Vince to our Friday night free for all. How are you, gentlemen?
Very good, Carl. How are you? How you going, Vince?
Morning. How are you? Or morning for me, anyway.
Yes. Vince has only just had his breakfast. Yeah, only just had his breakfast, dear love. So when you linked in before, Darren, before we went live, you were very excited. You were going to, or had sent me, I haven't had time to go and have a look yet, some news, as you put it, game-changing news. So
if true.
I should put up the breaking news logo, but I took it out of the system. So tell me, what's going on?
If I don't know if this is true, I've got people trying to check it out for me at the moment, so it may not be correct, but I'll play it for you. It only goes for about a minute.
Palestine has just secured its biggest victory in the history of its liberation struggle, and the media won't want you to know about it. At the UN General Assembly, states have voted overwhelmingly to finally put an end to Israel's illegal occupation of Palestine, and for the first time ever, there's a clear deadline. Here are the 5 main demands. 1, evacuation of all Israelis from Gaza, West Bank, and East Jerusalem, including all settlers and all military personnel, within 12 months. 2, demolition of the apartheid wall within 12 months. 3, states must seize all trade with Israel that entrenches the occupation, including ending all business, economic, and military relationships with the illegal settlements. 4, requirement to pay reparations to Palestinians affected by the occupation with a new authority that will quantify the amount to pay. 5, requirement to facilitate the return of all Palestinians displaced by the illegal occupation. The world has spoken, and the message to Israel is clear: get out of Palestine. Your days of murdering and kidnapping Palestinians, stealing Palestinian land, and acting with impunity are over. Take the advice and start packing. The countdown to liberation starts today. Palestine has just secured its biggest...
Wow.
Yeah, that's what I thought when I heard it. Now, like I said, he sounds pretty convincing. I haven't had that confirmed that it is actually true and correct. So it may be a furphy, but if it's not, it's a serious game changer.
So that's obviously come off Telegram, and many people probably don't even know what Telegram is, although I think most of our audience is going to be on it. Whether they've got it or not, they'll know there's something out there that exists.
No, it was a TikTok.
Oh, it was a TikTok?
Yeah.
Oh, well, shit, there's nothing secure about TikTok. So, all right, watch this space. You've got to think that is a story that mainstream media couldn't avoid. How is that going to place America in the current situation then with the Israelis and what's going on in Lebanon and Gaza?
Oh, look, I have no idea, and I'm not even going to focus too much attention on it. If it's true, it'll play out how it plays out. But I did talk to Beckio this afternoon, and she was saying she was speaking to Juan a couple of days ago, and he said there's going to be some big stuff coming out. And I did read something the other day. I keep a little bit of an eye on this stuff still. I'm not invested in it, but the Red October that we've been expecting for 3 years may be just around the corner, and with the November 5 coming up, who knows? But if this news continues to come out and ramp up daily, big stories like this, and it's anyway, we'll wait and see. It's not what I'm concentrating on, but it certainly it got me a little bit excited if it's true.
Me too. Absolutely. It will put America's current position with Israel in a very interesting spot, considering everything that's going on over in Lebanon with anything with a battery in it seemingly exploding. I've got the phone tonight in my, you can't see it, my Black Sheep provided EMF protecting Milo tin. Yep. So
that was the old two-way radio, wasn't it?
Yeah. So if the phone's going to go off, it's going to go off in the Milo tin, and I'm banking that it might be a bit strong on the shrapnel and hold it together. So
you're not going to have a problem. It's been worked out that the actual there was a company made specifically by Israel, it's been reported, and those pages and those walkie-talkies were deliberately sent to those people, so everybody else is fine. So, but it was very smart of them because they built their own company. Then they set up some side companies and then literally made these devices and sent them. So that's the latest news. And they were packed with explosives. It's not the batteries at all. As I said, when I was talking to you, I think I said, these batteries don't blow up. They hiss up. Like they create a lot of fire, but they don't. Quick. Yeah. So... no, our phones are safe.
I heard that the battery was used to trigger an explosive powder inside the devices. So it wasn't like a plastic explosive packed into it anywhere. It was a powder that spread throughout the whole thing, and that somehow these batteries are used to ignite that.
Doubtful, because you wouldn't have them all go off at exactly the same time.
Well, you would if you were able to feed a frequency or something to them somehow.
If you my were IT able to knowledge and stuff, and my electronics knowledge doesn't support that theory.
Okay, well, I've got to bow down to that because I have none of what you've just said. In fact, I barely understand what you just said. So.
That makes two of us.
There you go, people. That is how you bamboozle both Darren and Carl.
Yeah. Doesn't take much, mate. Doesn't take much. Just a bit of technophobe talk, and I'm out of the room.
Yeah, eyes roll up in the back of the head and say, "Yeah, good night. That's good night. Thank you." So, Darren, what have you been doing? Because it's been a while. I think the last time we talked to you, you were in Alice Springs or heading back down toward home after a good run through South Australia. Oh, it might have been just before the two big nights in South Australia. I think we spoke to you too. Yes. So what have you been into?
No, just same shit, different day, mate. I've got a lot of my belligerent behaviour over the last couple of years coming back to haunt me at the moment. So I'm just kind of just trying to hold it all up at the moment. But learning through this fella that's come into the mix, Marcel, he's given me 1,000 hours of help and experience and knowledge. And I've been on the computer all day today, actually correcting and just finalising my asseveration, which is what an affidavit used to be called before they put the colour of law in and brought in the AFF affidavit. So we're going back to first in time kind of stuff. So, yeah, working with Marcel, he's helping me a lot. He's helping Doris. He's helping Steve. He's helping Nibsy in Tasmania, and also a farmer that brings lambs down to Melbourne who's being harvested up in Deniliquin. So in the meantime, while he's doing all of that, he's trying to put together the Our Place Australia PMA and Private Express Trust that we're hoping to launch early September, which we've put back to late October now, because we didn't want to make the same mistake as we made with My Place, where it launched before we even had anyone, and it was growing across the country, and we were playing catch up all the time. So, but that's okay. And there's My Place is what I kind of talk now is My Place is in the public, sorry, and Our Place is in the private. So that's defining lines between the two. We have a similar purpose, and it's about education, but Our Place is going to a whole different level on when it comes to education, and it's about getting people to comprehend their standing and who they are and how they speak and express their will, and how to move into the private legally and lawfully, extracting themselves out of the tax system, off the voter roll, and because what we're building, like I said a few months back or quite a while ago, I have no interest whatsoever anymore in councils, in state governments, federal governments. I don't care who you put in Canberra, whether you take over the old Parliament House. The fact is that the people and what we're going with, we will never be governed by anyone again, and we are building a committed team to help people, gain the knowledge, the expertise, the spirituality, and the discipline to live their life in integrity, do no harm, cause no loss, basically under God's law, natural law. And we have a purpose, not just to save our own arse and get into private for our own benefit, but we have a purpose to restore equity. So it's about it's around the restoration of equity for all things on the land, air and water in this country and the world, which means getting the country and the planet back to as much of a natural state as the Creator intended, which means genetically modified food will be removed, and pharmaceuticals will. I know there's a place for pharmaceuticals, so I'm not saying that. We've got to start to educate people about preventative health and putting the right things into our bodies. And I don't want to go and see a doctor ever again.
People like Barbara O'Neill should be allowed to teach people in Australia. Yep. And she should be allowed to speak openly in Australia and educate Australians without fear of going to jail, because what she speaks is truth. In fact, I had cause about cancer to a very, very old friend of mine who's suffering from stomach, bowel, and a few other different forms of cancer, and is stage 4 terminal. He's currently doing bucket list things, and God love him. I sent this through. He's not one of us, very, very opposite that, in fact. I sent this through to him. I can just, with respect, give this a look, give this a try. I know that he's basically tried everything else now that the medical system has offered him. I don't know, it might be too far. Hopefully this does make some sort of difference for him. But that level of education, the level of success that Barbara O'Neill has had with her teachings around the world is staggering. And the only thing that staggers me more is that the Australian government will put her in jail if she tells you about it here on this land. She's got to go overseas to do that.
Well, it's not that staggering when you can comprehend that the Australian government are trying to kill the people on this land with forced vaccinations. So that makes sense.
That lens?
Well,
viewed through that lens. Now, your flag has been noticed. Do you want to explain the flag behind you?
Okay, that's Ulukai's flag. So what? I'll give. I don't know if people know. I'll give you a quick synopsis of what I know about it. And basically, the spirit came to Ulukai and said to him that he needed to develop a flag for all of humanity, and to make sure that he studied all the flags in the world to know so he knew what he was doing. So he did that. He looked at every flag in the on the planet, and two stood out from all the others. and they were the only two square flags on the planet. Every flag was rectangle except for these two. One was the Vatican, the church, and the other one was the Swiss guard who guard the church and the banking. So he said, well, humanity should be on an equal footing with these two institutions and have a square flag to be equal. Now, he also developed it and made it gold. So there is no gold trim going around this humanity flag. So it can never be at war. As you know, with the when America's got a gold fringe around their flag because they're at war at the moment, and it's the only flag in the world that has purple on it, which is the top chakra, which is royal, and then you've got the seven sisters of creation, which is the seven black dots. And you've got their god or creator, which is the other black dot, and then you've got man and woman underneath, which is the two black dots there as equal, with the sun in the center of that. And this is kind of the Southern Cross, although it's not in the shape, but it looks like a what's the name cross of
St. Peter's Cross,
Christian cross or something. Yeah, I don't even know the terminology for what they're called, but yeah. So and it's very for people that are, when Narelle first saw this, she got goosebumps and she read into it. She's quite spiritual. I just seen a bit of cloth with some dots and some paints on it. So once I comprehended it, because I'm on a very spiritual journey at the moment as well. I've been studying the 7 laws of hermetics, and also been watching a bit of Dr. Bruce Lipton, so there's so much more to it. And he's saying the same thing, that there is no cancer gene as such. Right, and it's not hereditary. It's a combination of what we do to ourselves, what our environment is, and what we put into our bodies. And this is all scientific stuff that this is coming out. So I'm learning a lot about that, a lot about what lens I look at the world and what lens I look at the problems that are coming at me, whether in a negative light or a positive light. And I've always been an eternal optimist, and I've always been, no matter how much shit I went through, it never stopped me, kind of thing. So I've always had that, but I'm just getting a better, deeper understanding of that, and trying to be more pausing and trying to be more balanced rather than swinging from one side to the other, like at the bottom of the pendulum. I think I'm getting further and further up the pendulum now, where it's a little bit more like this, instead of just flat out or stop, which is the only two speeds that I've ever known.
Yes, I would agree. Well, that's good, and you're feeling and certainly sounding a bit more comfortable in yourself about all of this. I know there seems to be a bit of a move on in Victoria and Western Australia at the moment for people who've been pushing back with their rates and with mortgage payments and all that sort of thing. Have we seen a reason for this to sort of kick off all of a sudden? And for people who may not understand, police are turning up at homes with sheriffs, with bank officials. They are changing the locks on houses, not only not letting you get all your personal effects out or giving you enough time to get your personal effects out in certainly one case, but in another case, this involves somebody in Western Australia. Haven't had a chance to actually speak to him yet. He might have come on tonight and told the story himself, but I'm not sure if it was this morning or yesterday. The property that he was on was raided, and similar deal. Those folks hadn't been paying the mortgage or whatever it was for a while, and 15 police turned up. They threw this fellow allegedly into the back of a paddy wagon and took off the vest that had the camera on it, the police camera, and then they gave him a hell of a flogging in the back of the divvy van. So I haven't been able to get a hold of him today, so I'm hoping he's all right. But that's the story as it's been related to me, alleged to me. We know that West Australia and Victoria in particular are well down the path of beating the shit out of their people. So are you seeing or hearing things on the street, Darren? You've had some big protests this weekend with the CFMEU in Melbourne, or is for the most part Victoria still asleep?
No, I don't think Victoria's still asleep, and I don't think the country's still still asleep. Yeah, you might not see them as active, but I think people are doing what they need to do at the moment, and that is forgetting about the petitions and the politics and all the bullshit, and actually going and getting educated. There's a thirst. We've spoken at probably 10 different venues now, Marcel and myself, on this proposal that we're putting forward for Our Place Australia, and the level of knowledge in the rooms and the need and want to join up pretty much straight away is phenomenal. And I'm hearing stories all the time. One of my favourites, Gail from down here. We had a stern conversation about it 3 months ago, and I suggested that she should try and wind back her social media. She come down to the market on Sunday. She was beaming like I've never seen her. So she had a spring in her step, and she came up and said, "Look, my life is so good. I'm so happy. I'm sleeping well. I've just gone out and bought a new car. I've never had a new car in my life. It gets delivered in 7 weeks." And I said to her, "I said, what did you get off social media?" And she said, "Yes." And this is where we're going with the speeches that I'm doing at the moment when we do the Our Place thing. That I just see that so many people are addicted to the drama, and they just can't walk away from the news cycle. They've got to have their hat in the ring. They've got to be part of every conversation. They've got to be part of every news story. Yeah. And that's just
that happens with people. That's happening with people in this movement. In fact, I would go so far as to say that is what John and his Bob were part of. These tiny little circles of people who all think the same thing, and they all reinforce their hatred of whoever happens to take their ire that day, and gee each other up. And John, I've seen him get excited about that happening, and he loves stirring the pot. That's just what he does, and he's always been that way. So if anybody thought he was going to change, well, ask yourself, who do you know changes at his age and after what he's been through? We all make changes in our life, but anyway, I wasn't going to get back onto it, but you raise a good point. Listen, I know you are.
You can't give thieves oxygen, and that's all it is. You just ignore it.
Oh yeah, and I fully intend to. So I want you to ask Marcel a question on my behalf, if you would.
Mm-hmm.
I've been doing a little bit of research, and one of the things that I struggle with all of the arguments about how we protect ourselves and how we can save our houses and stop them taking them away and get out of paying rates and loans and all the things that we, are basically called fools or tin hat wearing geeks because we have a different thought process. If we can put all that away, sovereign citizens. But we have, in my opinion, and nobody so far has been able to prove anything different. In my opinion, we have no enforcement arm. All right. Now, let's talk fire ants for a moment. There's a gentleman not too far from here who refused to have his property sprayed for fire ants. He refused so loud and so long that he went to court. In court, he presented such evidence that made the magistrate or the judge at the time lay down half a dozen undertakings. I've never heard of a judge doing this, but the judge laid down half a dozen undertakings that the government had to undertake to fulfill before they were allowed to spray this guy's property. They were very strong. The judge had torn the government a new arsehole, made it very clear that what they were doing was reckless and shouldn't be done. But when he brought the gavel down, he said, adjourned. So when you take your case to court and the judge, you essentially win, right? But the judge adjourns. He doesn't decide. He doesn't say decision for old mate. Government, you're rooted. You have to do this. Or he doesn't leave a directive in his order that any spraying can only be done after the undertakings have been fulfilled. He doesn't put any of that down in what he says to the government or in the orders. He just adjourns the case. What happens when you adjourn a case? Well, it can take 2 years before it has to be heard again, particularly here in Queensland. And because there is no resolution in the case, the original order stays in place. 3 days after the gavel fell on this bloke, the helicopter was over his property spraying it, regardless. They don't care. So who's going to enforce his right when the judge, who essentially awarded him the win, but didn't say, you've won? He said, case adjourned, not case closed.
Question. If the case is adjourned, that means it's still in play. So theoretically, there shouldn't be any movement while the case is still in play. So you've got to wonder what's going on there.
So old mate's now been sprayed 4 times, right?
Has he got video footage?
I believe he does, yes.
Yeah, he needs to get a high court injunction. And we're Marcel's just put in a high court injunction for someone that had their house seized at the moment. But that position, they got behind the 8 ball. I'm touching wood. Hopefully, I'm still just in front of the 8 ball. So what I've seen over the last couple of months, and the day I got back, a friend of mine, a very close friend of mine, was here on the very first night we opened my place in 2021, had his car seized. That was on the Tuesday that I drove back into Melbourne. Now, fortunate enough, I was in a position that I could, and this was for a rates case that was awarded against him for to Frankston City Council back in January or February this year. Now, so that was a decision. He's obviously had letters of demand for that $13,200, which was rates plus costs, and had ignored it all the way through. And they turned up and basically took his deceased wife's car, which his daughter is now driving. And his wife passed in 2019, just before COVID, and he had to bring up his kids through COVID. That was still, mid-teens. So he's had a shit time. But if he had because we're standing on our principles and morals about funding genocide and war crimes and the like, there's a point where you are better off to swallow a bit of pride and say, look, I'm impecunious, which means I have no money. He's on work cover, but to restore honour, I can afford to pay $20 a week. Now, if he had started paying $20 a week back in February, March, right, over the last 6 months, he would have paid $500 and would have ceased all action, because while you are making an effort, while you are paying something, they will not take that action. So now, because of his principles and morals, I'm not having to go at him, right? I love him, and he's a warrior. But it just has to make us all think about what position we're putting ourselves and potentially our families in, like with the house. As to now, he's actually paid them, $13,200, plus he had to pay another $750 for the tow trucks. So he's out of pocket $14,000, where he would have only been out of pocket, $600 or $700 at this point. So he's actually funded them more because he was standing on his principles and morals. So there's a bit of a lesson there for all of us, I think. And I'm in the process of I've sent my impecunious letters off to Gaydon's lawyers, which is Commonwealth Bank's lawyers, and the CEO of the CBA as well, and the CEO of AFCA, Australian Financial Complaints Authority. I've written them all a letter stating what I'm going to do, and I've had response from the CBA now, and they've given me an opportunity to claim for hardship thing, and I've got till the 17th of October. So the fact that I'm actually corresponding and I've said, look, I've been out of integrity, but to restore honour, I'm willing to pay $100 a week into these two accounts. That's taken the gun away from my head, so to speak. So I think we've got to take a lot of knowledge out of what's I won't mention his name, but this fellow with his cars, and obviously the family out at in the western suburbs, and what's happened in Perth today also. That if we continue to belligerently deny and don't correspond and talk, then this kind of stuff's happening. Now, there is scope within their system that you can drip feed and stay safe, right? And I think that is their system, and it's not going to court. We don't have to worry about a court handing down a demand, but it is their system that there is ways where we can drip feed and stay out of trouble. So I do believe that it would be the smarter option to stay in the battle, and and protect your assets in the short term until we see something shift sometime in the not too distant future, hopefully.
So, Darren, what you're basically saying then is that you're going to use the system against them.
Yep.
Right.
Yep. I'm going to use all the tools that they offer to keep the sheriffs out of my house and out of my property.
And all the best with it. I was going to say, regarding we have no way to fight back, we have no protection, we have no enforcement arm. I've been sent on a track that might give us some hope in that regard. Do either of you know a justice of the peace?
Yes, several. And a notary, public notary also.
The laws pertaining, and certainly the powers that justice of the peace have, are very significant.
If you put two of them in the same room, if you have two JPs in the same room, they're higher authority than the Supreme Court.
Yes. Now, how many people that are justices of the peace are on our side?
A few, and I know of one up in Mildura that actually had his JP license removed because of he was stamping documents that they don't want him to stamp.
So that would be the other thing. You might have an army of justice of the peace, but they immediately remove your credentials because you're stamping things they don't want you to stamp.
That's like the doctors, they took their licenses away if they told the truth or they offered, other remedies than the vaccinations. So, that's the belligerence, murderous authorities that we have. And this is a deliberate act. There's no doubting it's a deliberate act. To ban ivermectin and things like that, and to force and coerce and threaten and all the other things that they've done to make sure people took this bloody this jab, that's with intent at the highest level.
Yeah, and just to clarify,
in my opinion, just to clarify that's an opinion.
Yeah, well, that as well, and the fact that it is actually just for the YouTube algorithm, that it is actually there's now scientific papers out that prove all of that relevant stuff. So we can't be taken down for non-factual information. Although we're not supplying it here, it is available in medical journals around the world. Oh,
there's a medical journal that I brought some the attention to Narelle and Emma the other day, and she said, "Wow, this medical journal is one of the most looked at through that fraternity," and it was saying everything to do with the what these vaccine or these clot shots actually are. So she was blown away. She was really excited that it had made it into that and this is a government kind of institution as well.
Yeah, no, there's a few. Actually, I have a PDF here from one of the medical journals I will put up on the Voice of Freedom website if you're interested. And this is now a peer-reviewed medical journal to do with the two particular main mRNA I was looking for a word that will do it, like devices that were created. So, I can't say that.
Oh.
Right, we have to be so careful about what we're saying here, and we'll get into that discussion a little bit later.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
there's this document here, right? And there's some links on this document that take you to these government websites. And I clicked on one of them, and then I printed out a heap of other pages, which I can't find at the moment to know what it's called. No, it's not that one. But this one is basically saying, in December 2019, the DOD and Five Eyes game planned a pandemic that factored in the 2020 US presidential election. And it's got all the facts and figures of everything, how it was planned, how the sewage farms and all those people were in on it, so that when they needed evidence or they needed a narrative to back up the whole scamdemic, everybody was already informed about what they needed to supply to basically hoodwink and deceive the public. So there are reports right across the board. It goes way deep.
Yeah. So just for all of those, that's a good scientific, well, not science fiction paper, mate. Just in case.
Just
not saying it's true, but yeah.
No, it's non-fiction.
Well, we're not going to say that, right? You understand? We're not saying that.
No,
because we have to be so careful about what we say nowadays.
Allegedly, this is non-fiction.
Allegedly, that's better.
Yeah.
Thank you, boys.
Just trying to clean that up.
Yeah, from the end, from backwards. I'm trying to eat the. Oh no, I won't say that. But it would have started with us first. Yeah. All right, Vince. We were going to touch on a couple of other things, but I can't for the life of me think what they were. What were you going to bring up?
Well, there was a couple of things. One is, well, we discussed it just then, effectively, what it is or we can't say coming up in the near future and even in Queensland right now, due to legislation that basically goes against our human rights and our ability for free speech. So how can we ever have...
Just on that point, so that legislation and these John Wilson and this Bob conversation were alluding to how I'm now supporting One Nation. These people either aren't intelligent enough to understand the conversation or the words that I said about that. We were discussing One Nation in the context of Queensland, and that One Nation really is the only viable alternative vote place at this time, because the Queensland election is next month, to establish enough people on the crossbenches so that those that are given the power to govern the state, because we don't expect any One Nation or anybody like that to win. It'll always be Liberal Labor. But what they can't have is carte blanche to go and do anything. So my support for One Nation is predicated on the fact that it's for Queensland currently, and that we have to be able to get some power on the crossbenches to stop the criminals doing whatever the fuck they want and put forward legislation like this piece that came through on the 10th of September, which is called the Workplace Health and Safety and Other Matters Bill or something like that. Sounds really nice. I want to be safe at work. Well, now it also means that all you need is somebody who will agree. You know, Darren wants to be Dahlia and has been wearing a dress for the last 12 months, and he can go to birth, deaths and marriages and change his sex from male to female. That's all it takes these days. No gender reassignment surgery. This is the
kind of known it was that bloody easy. I would have been down there.
And I believe there's a hell of a queue. I believe there's a hell of a queue.
The far queue.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Oh, I probably was about to say something that could have got me thrown in jail for 3 years. So no, I won't say that.
Careful there, Carl.
Yeah.
I find your position on One Nation, let's say comical, because I've been saying this in my talks lately as well. for those people that still think that there's a political solution, and there's no better example than the latest Senate vote to vote down the investigation into the excess deaths in this country. Okay, where 3 Liberal senators crossed the floor to vote with Labor, and everyone's going, "Oh, we just need another 2 One Nation senators in there, and then we'll be right." How thick are people, really? Then 5 people will cross the floor and vote it down. I mean, it's so ridiculous of a notion to think that getting an extra 1 or 2 independents in there is going to change it.
But if we don't use those weapons, Darren, if we don't use that ability to put in somebody who's going to sit on the bench and basically be a swing vote where you can say, no, we don't agree with that, and you do not have the numbers, because it's all about numbers. If they do not have the numbers to pass the bill, then we've got protection. We need to use every single weapon that we have, every single advantage that we can get to take these people to accountability. So, yes, if we have to get a couple more One Nation senators or even a couple of private people into it, right, independents, we need them in there because it's one more string in our bow. It's one more arrow in the quiver, right? And we need to use those.
The good thing about it is that it'll show more public the fact that, okay, now more are crossing the table, crossing the floor, and it will highlight exactly what politics is. And it's the same with local councils. Apparently there's 50 seats in Victoria that aren't even up. No one's running for them. No one's interested in actually putting their hand up to run in the council elections in October. And these people are just being re-elected unopposed, which is fine. It doesn't bother me at all anyway, because at the end of the day, they have no authority over me.
Yeah. But local council in New South Wales elections a couple of weeks ago, the Libertarians seem to have got into a lot of areas, Wollongong and sort of south of there. Now, I don't know if that's good, bad, or indifferent, but they've been able to pick up 9 chairs, and I believe the mayoralty of Cessnock. G'day to Ange and Craig Trapnell in Maitland. God love you. I don't know why I thought of that. Anyway, the mayor of Cessnock is a libertarian, apparently with an agenda more in line with the feelings of this side of the aisle than the others. So maybe in certain parts of New South Wales, anyway, there is movement in those local government circles. And I'm with you, Darren. I understand completely what you're saying about a political solution, but at the moment, I'm not seeing any other solution. And on top of that, I see no viable enforcement method for that solution when they push back, which they will do. So all we've got to work with at the current point in time is the current system. And if we can get an undertaking from One Nation that whoever wins government and gains their support to form government, that one of the first actions they do will be to repeal this absolute unbelievable invasion of our free speech and human rights, although bear in mind that Australia has no free speech right. That's all we can do at this point in time. Or what do we do?
Love the bill.
What do we do? We just sit back and say, oh, well, they're going to do it. Let's just not say bad.
Beautiful. Love it. Bring it on. I love it.
Support what bill? The fact that you can't
the
talk
disinformation bill. I think it's a stroke of genius, and I support it. And the more draconian measures they can roll out, the happier I'll be.
Right, yeah, I love the sarcasm.
I understand that too. It will wake up more people.
Oh, hello.
But I don't know that it'll help us.
Correct.
I don't know that it'll help us.
I mean,
it's like that letter that I read out the other night.
Why are you trying to stop the damn wall from bursting? Why have people got their back up against the wall and their heels dug in when we actually need it to burst? It's going to burst whether you like it or not. Get out of the way, go and educate yourself, and get prepared.
Well,
but how are we going to educate ourselves? Just hold on, slippery
and
slope.
We've been seeing the dam threatening to burst now for God knows how long. I know I've been waiting for 4 years for the dam to burst, and every 6 months or so we get, what we think is it lipping over the edge, but it never does. It recedes, it goes back, and we're still stuck with the same bunch of shit sitting in Parliament trying to represent us. What I'm hopeful of doing, because what I would prefer is a whole bunch of independents to stand up and be able to fulfill their obligations on those crossbenches for we the people. But unfortunately, the population is fucking weak.
Yep. They don't
there aren't
understand.
enough of them to stand up. So we do have to talk to people like One Nation at this point in time, I feel, because otherwise I'm going to sit back here, watch these pricks enact this bill and go to jail for you.
Yeah.
All because I
And
upset
for the
somebody
fact
with a
that
list and they can't take a joke.
Yeah. Yeah. And that is the problem. You just got to offend somebody. So, how easy is it to offend somebody? Geez, Darren, I can offend you every day we speak, don't I, mate? Yeah.
I'm unoffendable. I'm unoffendable.
But these, I'm going to say it, the younger generation have more emotions than common sense. So they haven't had the hard lives yet. But
no, and that's what they need. That's why we need this shit to go down. We need it to happen, guys.
It wakes more people up, I agree. But it's
and more and more people get into their line of sand.
Australians are lazy.
I was going to say sorry, Carl. I was going to say that's a slippery slope.
Yeah. Shut up. I'll shut up this time. You go.
It's a slippery slope, right? Because if they put this in, you're saying, Darren, go out and educate yourself. How? Because you're not going to be able to get the education because it will be classed as misinformation, disinformation, or malinformation. So how are you going to get the various different sides of the argument if it cannot be presented? See the catch-22 in
Unity Hub. There's no disinformation, misinformation on Unity Hub. We've got our own private platform.
However,
we meet in person.
We have to deal with that because this bill is a challenge in that area, and I have yet to work out how I'm going to get around it.
Face-to-face meetings. People are getting educated everywhere I go. That you'd be surprised how many people. And not through that, not in that way. I'm not talking about just with what we're doing. All around the country, people are educating themselves. I was talking about at my place, Bayside, Wednesday night, and Mona from Sydney was down, Ramona. She's doing a massive amount of work with Rocco, and so many people are actually spending their time empowering themselves by learning how to stand up for their rights, okay, and learning this stuff. Now, as we defund, the tax department are shitting themselves because so many people are setting up not-for-profits and private members associations, right? There is ways in their system to extricate ourselves out and stop funding it. If people had the fucking discipline, right, to boycott all multinationals and actually do what we need to do in this country, the 10 million people that are awake, right, this would be over in 6 months, right? Their system's going to collapse, or 12 months. So there is a way without having to get into politics, and there is a way without actually raising a fist to take back control, right? But people have got no discipline and they've got no drive or heart or passion to actually make the decisions they need to make. And there, I've said it. Bang.
Yeah, well, just on that, back on that disinformation bill, there's nothing to say it's just in social media, just letting you know.
Yeah, okay.
So getting around and walking around and creating meetings and having meetings, they can get you there as well. So you got to be really cautious about what's going on here, right?
Yep.
And while I agree, we do everything we can. We've got to use their own weapons against them. I've been saying that for a long time. And the political side, like for instance, One Nation in Queensland, right, they're more aligned to the people than what most other parties are. So we have to support what we can, as I said, put another arrow in the quiver, right? So, I mean, walking away and not voting. 4 million people did not vote in the last federal election. 4 million people out of 17. You think about if those 4 million people had voted, could we have a significantly different support bench than we have now? Just saying.
That's a $1 million question that none of us will ever know.
It's actually 4 million.
Good question.
Look, like I said, I'm not talking. I'm talking from where I'm at. I'm fed up with the. Like I said, it doesn't matter who goes in there. Humanity is going in a direction of being self-determined, self-governed, and need to get off the the handout bullshit. And people need to learn a new way to live, regardless. So, I do realise that there needs to be some kind of governance in this country for people, because this is going to take generations for people to get to where I'm happy to be, and there's at least 1 million people plus in this country that are similar minded to where I'm at, and probably even further in front of me, a lot of them, and we can build our own economy if people have the discipline. And so it's not unachievable, it's just that people just don't have the will, and they can't see it. Now, if we can get it started and start to build some momentum and show the way, I think people will flock to this concept.
Yeah, 100% agree with you on that, right? That is true, and we do need to do that. It's just, as I said, it's another avenue. It's another quiver, right? Another arrow in the quiver.
Yep.
So,
And you can't have enough of those.
Yeah.
Gentlemen, I wanted to run something past you, but it would have been a much longer conversation. And I don't know that everybody wants to have a long conversation tonight, but maybe this is something I can throw open for you all to consider over the day. I've been, as you know, critical. Sorry, what have I done?
Drop out, mate. Just start again.
Oh, righto. So I've been critical of Ricardo Bozzi, as we all have, particularly the fact that he doesn't communicate to Australians. He's now, been variously accused of looking for cover or just ignoring us and trying to, embed himself with the Americans for whatever reason. And nobody's actually been able to figure out that reason, me amongst them. We can agree, nobody really thinks Ricardo is a stupid individual or a silly man. He's doing this with a plan. I've not been able to see the plan, but today I had a bit of an epiphanation. And I was talking with somebody, g'day Mick. This has been in the background of my head for a few weeks, but I only voiced it the first time in a conversation today. And as it came out of my mouth, it felt honest, it felt right. What if Australia really will become the 51st state of America? Ricardo doesn't need to build an Australian audience to be named governor, interim governor of the 51st state of America, given that the Americans will be calling the shots on who goes into that chair in that interim period. So what he's doing currently is building a profile on the ground in the States as a military leader, so that through their network, he is being put up as the only Australian capable of becoming and being named governor, taking orders, and being put in that position when the time comes.
What the hell?
I personally can't see how that will occur, how we could become a 51st state of America. I mean, that's corporatized government, maybe, but
it's an executive order. It's an executive order.
From who? Let's see,
Trump.
Where is America going to be in the next 2 to 3 months? Right? I can only see 3 things that are going to happen in America over the next month, or 46 or 48 days, or what it is. From what I'm looking at, I will see 1, if Kamala Harris wins, right, there's a very good chance there'll be civil war. If the election is not proven to be 100% correct. In other words, it hasn't been duped or whatever. If, in fact, Trump wins, there's going to be rioting in the streets from the lefties. They're going to destroy people's lives, properties, bits and pieces. And the unfortunate part about that is that Trump won't be able to do anything about it because he's only president-elect. They'll blame him for it, right? But he won't be able to be the only one to do it. And the people who can do it won't do shit, right? So you've got either civil war or you've got rioting in the streets, or if the election is true, fair, and confirmed to be that way, then the right side will stand down because it's followed the proper election protocols. So they're going to be in so much chaos.
So you're talking about a different, but you're talking about a completely different process. What I've just outlined.
What I'm saying is, are they going to have
what I've
time
just
to
outlined could only work if the White Hat plan comes to fruition, and there is no US election in November. Right?
They got 48 days to do that?
45.
45.
Red
Funny.
October.
45th president.
Red October. Ring any bells?
Potentially. Well, if this thing that I just showed at the start ends up being factual, Red October's already started.
Well, yeah, I don't think Red October starts in October. That might be just
but that's,
see it opened up around the world. Oh.
But either way,
just move your head to the left or right. Is that a Star Trek geeky thing behind you? What's that say? I can't see it. Is that a Star Trek communicator?
It sure is.
Very good.
What else would you expect from me, Carl? Come on.
That's where Vince gets his downloads from.
Mate, have you got have you got to play with Vince's lightsaber?
No, I've never
pretty
seen
special. Yeah. Oh, you want two hands on Vince's lightsaber? Trust me.
And for all of those who want to follow the white hats, we have some. Send me an email.
Some white hats. Boxes and boxes of white hats, in fact.
So Vince gets his downloads from other galaxies. Vince gets his downloads from other galaxies, and I get mine from James Bogues.
Apparently,
I used to until I seen the list of Freemasons, and apparently James Bogues was a fucking Freemason. So I've stopped drinking Bogues now.
That's the way. Good. You'll have to start brewing your own.
Yeah, looks like it.
I believe a mutual friend of ours might have a brew kit. Might have a brew kit that needs a home temporarily, so you might be able to help him out.
Yeah, I actually helped him move those barrels yesterday.
Yeah, don't let the bastards take those. All right. Thanks, Darren, for coming on. If people want more information on our place and my place, what can they do?
They can jump on myplaceaustralia.org. There's not a huge amount of information on our place on there at the moment because it will be private and we're still building. So it's a concept. We're doing live. We've put a stop to. Oh, yeah, Victorian Camp Out. You coming to that, Carl?
Yeah. I've already booked the site.
Yeah, so, and also Unity Hub.
I think there's a couple. Well, I think there's at least one, but probably three groups coming down with me from Queensland too. And following that, I don't know if Brett's still in the chat. I saw his name in there earlier. There's a gentleman in Mount Gambier called Brett Keema who is putting together an event, an 832 event with Michael and trying to get, well, basically a whole heap of us together, including Guru and myself. He reached out to Guru and I and said the event is happening in Mount Gambier at Blue Lake in Mount Gambier, the 6th and the 7th of December. Everybody welcome to come along and attend. And as it turns out, I'll be leaving Echuca or the Echuca area on, I think it's the 2nd of December. Yeah, because I'm leaving on the Monday. And, well, I've got friends and family all the way down through Western Victoria. So I'm going to go to Mount Gambier and be at that event for the 2 days on the 6th and 7th of December as well. I'll catch up with as many people as I can down in the western and sort of northwestern areas of Victoria. And I don't know yet. We might figure out which way to go after that, whether I head north up to Mannum and go and crash at Vince's place for a little while and come home the long way. And by the long way, I mean back to Mildura and then maybe up to Lightning Ridge and Cobar and back across that way. It might be an interesting drive. Or might leave the bus down there, just come back for Christmas with Mum and then fly back down and continue the journey. It seems stupid to go and spend all the money to drive back up here, to drive back down to Victoria again for early next year, where I've undertaken to be at a couple of other things. So might wind up parking the bus at your place for a while, mate, or out at Greenie's.
Yeah, no problem, mate. Well, if you're going to Mount Gambier, you got to go through Narracourt. Beautiful town,
wonderful part of the world.
Through there on the way back, and went through Narracourt, Mount Gambier, and down to Nelson.
Is it Penfolds? Is it Penfolds Winery that you have to go through at Penola?
Oh, there's a heap of them down there, mate. Seriously, big name wines down in that district. And I tell you, the Barossa Valley was another area that I spent a bit of time in when I was seeing Tim. Some beautiful places up through there, through the Adelaide Hills. I'll tell you, I actually enjoyed my time in South Australia. It was actually
Tim Dwyer is going to be at this event in Mount Gambier as well, so he's already lined up to speak. So you should come too, brother. See if you can grab that lovely missus of yours. And what is it? 5 hours from, probably 6 hours from where you are. So
well, I'll be in it. Yeah. It'll be about 5 6 hours. Yeah.
So the 832 muster that is open to everybody. So even the My Places here in South Australia are discussing about helping and assisting in that. So just to let you know that that's also there, and that's a good sign because it means that the groups are starting to come together and unite, which I reckon is great.
The division that they seem to think there is between certain of us doesn't really exist, or certainly not on my part. So it's conflated, imagined, or at least only half true, which seems to be the way of most of the miscommunication that happens in our part of the world. But anyway, we'll talk that again another night. Darren, go away.
Tim's
have a lovely night. Have a great weekend. Hey?
I'm actually catching up with Tim. He's coming to my place Monday morning, and then we're heading down for a meeting at another venue from here.
Very good. Yeah, very good.
He has some very interesting stuff to inform you of, so listen closely.
Beautiful. Yep. Awesome.
Very good.
Yeah,
all right,
look, there's lots going on. There's so much going on.
I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I know that Tim and Darren and hey?
Love to Anna.
Okay, we'll do. Just walked in, so I'll let her know and pass on my regards to Laura as well. And thanks for the invite. And it was a good chat. And
good to have you on.
Keep up the good work.
No worries, brother. We'll keep the fight going. And myplace.org is the place. myplaceaustralia.org to go and get some more details.
Oh.
And looking forward to hearing more about the educational processes you guys are hoping to put forward with our place too, mate. Really am. Just
a quick one before we go as well with the My Place stuff. We've just started a monthly newsletter now. Victoria pumped out a 15-page newsletter, and South Australia got about a 6 or 7 page one, and I think Queensland got about a 16-page newsletter. So there's so much. A lot of people are really starting to get the idea of writing some stories. We're trying to now entice them to start doing some interviews,
right,
and some footage, so that we can start what we've been talking about earlier in the year. Start putting together some kind of promo videos and that kind of thing as well. So we are starting to push, or not push, but entice people to start doing some video content, interviews, and that kind of thing.
Great.
Yeah, if we can get that going enough that we can get there, we might be able to get a FBN news media feed once a week news or something that about what's happening in the My Places. So the more people can supply us with content, the better off we're going to be.
Yeah. Yeah, we're finally working towards it now. People are really enthused about this, the newsletter, and putting some clips together. So,
Brett is still in the chat. So the dates for the muster are 6, 7, 8 of December. I think Fern wanted those dates, or somebody maybe else. So yeah, 6, 7, 8. I thought it was only 6 and 7, but there you go. 6, 7, 8 of December. And I'll be there. Head along. We'll find somewhere to camp out. There are. I know there's a very flash caravan park there, the Blue Lakes. I want to say it is, or the Blue Lake Caravan Park.
It's the Blue
But there
Lake
are a
Caravan
few
Park.
others. Yeah, there are a few others that might be a little bit cheaper per site. I don't think that the Blue Lake's going to be one of those ones they stay at for $15 a night. So you might be able to find, like me, a good truck stop. We'll see what happens, but I'm looking forward to getting down there for it. And that area means a lot to me, believe it or not. I grew up 150 k's away. I don't even know how far Hamilton is now, but used to take about an hour and a quarter, I suppose, to get to the Mount. Did my first radio jobs in Hamilton, a little far away, and went to school in Hamilton. Used
so
to
it must
play,
be about 300 k's then, if it was an hour and a quarter.
Yeah, well, back in those days, they didn't have speed cameras, so I was probably going pretty hard at it too. And I was driving a borrowed RX-7 at the time, so
there you go.
it probably didn't take me an hour and a quarter, put it that way. But yeah, it'd be great to get back to the Mount and go and catch up with Bugsy Parham, my old schoolmate, who's Mount Gambier's best personal lawnmower. He gets that endorsement because I've seen his work. He posts up magnificent pictures. He also should have been one of Australia's best cricketers. And maybe when I'm in Mount Gambier, he'll tell you the story about his cricketing career. All right, mate. I'll talk to you soon. You have a good one, Darren, and love to the lovely Anna, and be safe.
No worries. Thanks, Carl. Same to you. Thanks, Vince. Talk soon.
See you later, Darren.
Excuse me. And Vincenzo, anything else you need to cover before we depart for this fine evening? I've got a couple of things I'm going to go back to in the chat, but I can do that without you.
No, yeah. Well, thanks for that. Effectively, no. By the way, Mount Gambier is my hometown. I lived there for the first 20 years of my life, just to let you know.
Oh, there you go.
So, but no. All I got to say is that this bill of misinformation, disinformation, I think is really, really bad, and we need to look at all avenues to try and thwart it. I don't know how, but it is something that we need to be fully aware of. So, guys, research this, because you're going to need to know every single little nook and cranny of it so that you can avoid yourself from getting taken and still get the information out. So that'll do from me. So I'll do the customary.
Fern, don't go anywhere. I want to address something in your chat, so don't go anywhere. There you go. That's Vince waving. Goodbye, brother. Talk to you soon. All right, yeah. Let me just go back to the chat because I was a bit upset. Fern, you left a message. Let me try and find it here somewhere. There you go. You travelled down the coast about 800 k's to see me to catch up, but I wasn't here, and it was very disappointing and confusing. And you felt you had, and I can't find the other end of that message. First of all, I'm very sorry you travelled all this way to see me and I wasn't here, but I had no idea you were coming. Did I? You must have caught a really bad day because I'm always here. However, I'm part of a community here, and while I'm pretty open about telling you where it is, and if you want to go and buy a plot, somebody else will take you around it. But it's not really a place I can accept visitors to because I'm sharing somebody else's block. I'm on doing other things for other people, and some of the people who live where I live are very private people, and they live down here because they don't want people rolling up and unannounced and just wanting to catch up. I'm not trying to be rude or put a point on it. It's just that this isn't the easiest place just to roll up and get into unless you are coming to see one of the girls about business. So just to roll up and say, I'll just drive down and see Carl, doesn't really work out like that. And there is no guarantee I will be here. I could be anywhere on the property doing anything, driving anything, and or I could be off the property. It's very rare that I'm off the property for long, but I might be. So I'm very sorry that you drove that distance. Please email me with a way to contact you, and I will let you know next time I'm coming south down to Coffs, because I love Coffs Harbour, and I'll pull up, spend the day or the night or whatever it turns out to be down there, and we can catch up, because I don't want you to think, let down that you couldn't catch up and say g'day on the day you turned up. I didn't happen to be here. That'd really be disappointing for me too, I guess. So I'm sorry I missed you. So do that. Email me, carl@vofhq.com, and next trip south, because I tend to leave early in the morning, so I'm likely to be in Coffs at 8 o'clock in the morning or something like that, 8:30, 9 o'clock. We can do an early breakfast, or if it's lunchtime I'm there, we'll do a lunch, or if it's afternoons, maybe we'll do a dinner. I don't know, but I don't want you to think you can't catch up. I'd love to see you, and I hope we can do that. Speaking of that, Suzanne, or Susan, I don't know if you're a Suzanne. I think you're a Susan. You've emailed me, Susan, about some work on the property and a few other bits and pieces. I will get back to you with that. I will forward your email on to the girls, and one of them will be in touch, although both of them are out of commission this weekend. So it won't be until next week, and it may even be further down the track from there. Yes, there is a bit of work going on here at the moment, but there are a few other requirements that are taking precedence. The tank installation is going to be one of those, and that's something that we don't need workers for. They bring their own in, as it turns out, in bloody huge semi-trailers and all sorts of other gadgetry, which haven't materialised on the property yet. Just 750 advised it might be a week or two before the semi-trailer actually arrives. So all that Russian, but there you go. All part of the fun of it. So, I just wanted to touch on that, Fern. Please, I'm very sorry that I missed you. And particularly if you have an army in wait, very keen to talk to you. I did say again, 6, 7, 8 of December for Brett Kimar's 832 muster in Mount Gambier at Blue Lake. If you've never been to Blue Lake, beautiful, absolutely stunning lake, and it's blue. Not much more to say about it until you see it, but after that, and you get over the blueness of it, it has some lovely areas you can sit around and admire the blueness. But there'll also be some speeches and a few other things going on at Brett's event, so we look forward to seeing you there. If you want to tag along, catch up, and bring the community together. That's Brett's key goal out of all of this, to try and bring the community together. Now, I know Dave Guru Graham is otherwise indisposed, I believe, at that weekend. However, I've slipped him an elbow and nudged him gently with a text. He's going to see what he can do. He may be able to attend. He won't be able to convoy down with us or anything like that, but he might be able to fly in, fly out, as all rock stars do, fly in, fly out, and make an appearance. So fingers crossed that'll happen for folks who want to catch up with Guru. Let me have a look here. Sounds good. If you're in Coffs, find you. I will, but you're going to have to email me the way to find you. So carl@vofhq.com, Fern. That'd be great. Oh, Fern, you might be interested in buying a plot. Well, can I tell you? What can I tell you about plots? I think there's 3, possibly 4 going. I don't know. It's a small number, but there are some nice plots going. Plots sound like a grave. Pads. Call it a pad. I got a really cool pad, man. Got a really cool pad. All right. I think I've covered everything off in the startup questions that I was going to catch up. Tony, thank you for your email today, or text, or whichever it was. I get a bit confused sometimes, but thank you for that. Really enjoyed it. Susan, I'm going to say Susan because, yep. Susan, I'll email you. Might be after the show. It might be tomorrow morning. We'll see how it goes. But I'll give you a bit of an idea of a plan and an outline. I'm not exactly sure where you are in relation to things or your current situation outside of what you outlined, but there may be some solutions to opportunities or solutions leading to opportunities going down the road. So we'll have a chat. And I don't think I've got too much more to add, do I? No, all of those have been starred out, and I reckon I've really only got to say my good night. Well, my good night tonight is going to begin with a picture that should keep you awake for a few hours. Never forget what these people did to you. Never forget. LRADs are back in the news. That'll be something we'll talk about next week if it proves to turn into a story. Other than that, be safe over the weekend. The dickheads are out there, and you know what you got to do. Avoid the bastards at all costs.
You let one ant stand up to us, then they all might stand up. Those puny little ants outnumber us 100 to 1. And if they ever figure that out, there goes our way of life. It's not about food. It's about keeping those ants in line. That's why we're going back. Does anybody else want to stay? Let's ride!